Hello, DuPage County. Edith Makra, right over there, will be speaking very shortly. Got an awesome turnout at tonight's EC3 meeting. Do you guys want to see our new cards? Let me... It's plugged in really close. That's our new card. Alright, I'm going to set you up and we're going to get started. Woohoo!
They're different, so if you're looking for different examples, you got one? Okay, wonderful. Sure. Never know where someone might show up.
Oh, goodness. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out to our EC3 meeting tonight. I'll give a brief little blurb about our organization, what EC3 is, and your part in EC3, and then we'll get started. So my name is Andrew Van Gorp, founder and president of Sustain DuPage. We're a 501c3 that was started in 2014. We are working toward a sustainable DuPage County. We want an economically, environmentally, and socially sustainable DuPage County. And the way we're doing that is we're empowering people with sustainable living skills. So we teach people how to basket weave, how to garden, how to cook, how to community organize, lots of sustainable living skills. And then this is the second half of what we do, which is kind of like the back end. Not a lot of people see the EC3 side. So the back end is working towards enacting sustainable policy reform in DuPage County. So sometimes when people hear about words like sustainable policy reform, their eyes kind of glaze over. It's not really the sexiest side of sustainability, quantifying things. But really, if you're serious about creating change in your community, we have to get serious about metrics. We have to get serious about benchmarking, the more savvy side of sustainability, kind of like that Silicon Valley energy. So that's kind of what we're doing here tonight. The EC3 stands for the Environmental Commission and Committee Coalition. So we were formed this past year. We held a symposium. We invited all 17 environmental commissions of DuPage County to come out and present for 5 minutes on their challenges, their successes, and their visions forward for the next 5 years. It was an incredibly successful event, and from that network, we've developed a framework for the EC3. So we are creating a coalition. We are Illinois' first environmental commission and committee coalition. So you should all be super proud that DuPage County is leading the way. You are all a part of that, which is really exciting. And Edith's going to talk a little bit more about her experience. So I am so incredibly privileged and proud to introduce Edith Makra. Edith Makra directs environmental initiatives for the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, where she advises 275, I'll say that again, 275 mayors on important issues that can be addressed by local governments, yet have regional impact. She synthesized local and regional environmental priorities to craft the Greenest Region Compact 2, a consensus sustainability plan for communities. She served on former Chicago Mayor Richard M. Daley's staff, helping to shape the city's environmental priorities. Makra has extensive experience engaging communities in environmental stewardship through her past work with the Morton Arboretum and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. She has a BS in forestry from the University of Illinois. She's a DuPage girl, born and raised in Westmont, whoop whoop, and currently lives in Bloomingdale. We're so thankful to have you.
And I'll go, what time you want?
Yep.
You do 45?
Yeah, 45 minutes is perfect.
Great. Thank you. I am so happy to be here, and I have to say my 275 mayors is really impressive, but they don't all listen to me, which is why I need you. Could I just, do you know what communities are here?
Yeah, let's go sound out.
Yeah, just if we could find out.
So I know Glen Ellen's here.
Glen Ellen, raise Glen Ellen. Lombard. Lombard, hey!
Westmont.
Hey, there we go.
Warrenville.
Warrenville.
Villa Park.
Hanover Park.
Oak Park. And yours?
I'm from Lyle.
Lyle. Anybody else?
Carroll Street.
So I'll try to give you guys a shout out, just knowing who's in the room here. And thank you so much for having me. You may not know this, but I have a very strong affection for citizens commissions. And Andrew wanted me to talk more about that, but I'm going to dedicate this conversation to Greenest Region Compact because I really think you can help me with it and I can help your communities. But I do want to talk about Citizen Commission at some point, but I do have a very soft spot for them. I developed my affection for them when I worked for the state of Massachusetts, and then when I came back to the Morton Arboretum, I was amazed all the time with what goes on in commissions. And so I studied that, kind of brought that energy to the mayor's office, and we'll talk about it at another time because I want to help you guys. But it is true that you are the first Citizens Commission coalition, and it's something that I've always wanted to do. So kudos to you and to EC3 for pulling yourselves together. It's very powerful, and honestly believe that you guys are really powerful. So I'm going to launch into Greenest Region Compact and tell you what we do there. First off, the Mayor's Caucus is a council of governments, a regional council of governments, and we're actually umbrella to 9 other councils of governments, 10 unofficially, 9 officially, or COGs we call them. So have you heard of DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference? That's one of our members. So we have Northwest Municipal Conference and Will County Governmental League and Lake County Municipal League, and they're all form our leadership for the caucus. We were formed by former Mayor Daley, who said we should have regional collaboration. Mayor Daley was actually a real leader in the region on a lot of environmental issues, so he created a number of organizations, including ours. The Mayor's Caucus, we're a very small, not-for-profit. We have a full-time executive director who works on a lot of the hardcore governance and legislative issues. Then there's 2 full-time program staffs, one on housing and one on environment. So that does tell you environment has historically been important to the Mayor's Caucus and remains important. And I'll talk a little bit more about our programming there. But what got passed out is the Greenest Region Compact 2 framework. I might reference it, but if you'll stay with me as long as you can, I know what evening meetings are like, so we'll do our best. I'm going to try to go without lights. What do you think, Andrew? Unless you find you can't read the slides. There's nothing really, it's up to you.
Okay, I'll give it a shot.
You're okay
Just right
with
there?
that? Yeah, that's fine. It's not a big. Can you read the stuff okay? Not a lot. Fine detail there. But what I'll talk about, I'm going to try to find a spot where I'm not going to stand in front of the screen and bother you guys if I can specify to your notes. Okay, so I'll go over the overview of what the Greenest Region Compact is and how I built it. I think it's a really neat process. And there's 3 parts to that. Environmental achievements, and you had one sort of just a black and white sheet that went around. I'll go into what the details of that are. Sustainability plans were analyzed to create this, and I'll focus in on what's going on in DuPage. And then I'll tell you how the Greenest Region Compact, that was the building of the Greenest Region Compact, and then what it actually is. There's 3 parts to that. There's an actual compact, there's a supportive framework, which is a tool, and then there will be future supported and some current supported programs for Greenest Region Compact adopters. Did I step out of your camera by standing to this side?
No,
I just think.
angle. You're good.
Okay, I'm good. All right, I'm covered there. And then again, the reason that I need your help on this is the Greenest Region Compact is something that can be endorsed and supported by your community, and you become part of this bigger network. So I will ask for your to the extent that you can, take it back to your communities. So to build first of all, historically on the Mayor's Caucus and building the Greenest Region Compact, before I got there, I've only been there about 4.5 years, we had a long-time program called Clean Air Counts. Does anybody remember that? Okay, Clean Air Counts. Was your community a member of it?
I think kind of not really.
Kind of sort of. Okay, and they were business members, and it was a neat idea. The program went away before I got there, but it was kind of a neat idea. And what it was there was a regional problem, and that was air quality. US EPA set some standards. We weren't quite in compliance, and it was decided that if the region went voluntarily to emissions reductions, then we could be compliant and would get the same sort of regulatory approach. So it was a very large effort. We had 116 communities and then hundreds of businesses that signed on and said, we're going to do a little something. We're going to buy low VOC cleaning products, or we're going to put in permeable pavers instead of pavement, a no idling program. So all those kinds of things added up to, and when you started to count how many pounds of pollutants you didn't put into the air, regionally there we were. So that was a good foundation. I liked that a lot. We also had a couple of other initiatives. One of them was the original Greenest Region Compact. That's why there's a 2 after that one. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't wildly impressed with the first Greenest Region Compact. We had 96 communities sign on to it, but that was enough of a third of our membership. So I kept the name for that going forward. But I'll show you a little bit more about it. But it was a pledge that said we're going to do these things for the environment. Our follow-up was miserable. I'll be honest with you. We didn't follow up. And so that's why I kept the 2 concepts of let's do a little bit and count it, to Andrew's point about metrics, and then let's find a new Greenest Region Compact. It's something that we really want to support municipalities. As you'll see, some of the studies that I did is sustainability, obviously, thinking more cohesively than just the emissions issue was what the Greenest Region Compact was about. And looking at that first example of clean air counts, we had a regional issue, opportunity or a problem, and if we all aligned together, we could maybe work in the same direction. I sort of envisioned this as, when I first started to put this together, I'm like, what if we stacked up all the sustainability plans and found where the commonalities were, and then what if we understood that? And that's what this essentially is. So if you're a visual person, think of it that way, but we could be more impactful. The other visual image that I think about in terms of the Greenest Region Compact is, have you ever watched the National Geographic videos and you see the fish going this way and then suddenly they all snap and they're like, all go the same way. So that's kind of how I see this. Everything. Okay, so to build the Greenest Region Compact, and I'll be honest with you, I really needed to know when I got to the Mayor's Caucus, what should I be working on? I've got 275 municipalities, it's a really big region, sustainability is huge, it's broad. What should I be working on? And I started saying, okay, well, what are communities already doing? As Andrew mentioned, I have a forestry background. I knew there were a lot of Tree City USAs, so were trees important? Or was I paying attention to them because that's my thing? Or was food scrap composting important? What's already going on? So let's start with that. Let's start with where you guys are at, you guys meaning communities, and looking at existing programs, what tools are out there already, like Tree City USA, that we could be, that would be helpful if we wanted to create a sustainability program. So I inventoried environmental achievements, I call it, for every municipality. And that was, I did it stealthily. Some of my colleagues, I work with the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, we share office space with them, and they're like, let's do a survey. And I don't know about you, but I get messages in my inbox, and I'm like, this survey's going to take 10 minutes? I don't know. To me, it seems like whoever answers the survey, that's great, you'll get some good information. They're really useful, but when I needed this kind of information, I actually did a stealthy inventory. So I went into databases, and I found what are measures of environmental achievement. So I mentioned Tree City USA, but I looked at all of these things. So an award, what if you got Partners for Clean Air Counts, which I think the little partner Carol Stream might have gotten. It's an air quality award. You won that award. Well, that's good to know. Or the Governor's Sustainability Award. Or you're certified as a Tree City USA. Or we gave you energy efficiency grants. Or you belong to Chicago Wilderness. Or you adopted a complete streets policy. Or you had the anti-idling program. So I found sets of data from lots and lots of different measures of sustainability, 95 different measures of sustainability, and I asked a lot of experts, for example, on recycling, what's a good measure for that? And so I studied and tallied them. This was a lot of work. we have an enormous database, so 3,500 different environmental achievements. And what that told me, and there's a lot of detail in the overview. Can you guys see this okay? Okay. So what it told me, most of the achievements are related to colors are funny, a little vague. Yeah, land is usually the biggest one. It's 20% over there. Pardon my penis. Waste reduction, land stewardship comes across as very high priority. And we did a lot of categorization back and forth, and if you ever really want to get very bored, I'll tell you how the magic was. But we studied based on categories according to the original Greenest Region Compact and then some. The purple category, watch that grow over time, that's sustainability stewardship. That has to do with everything that's not tangible like that, like I call it the people stuff, quality of life stuff. And so you might not be able to see this, but this is what the database looked like. So some of the top achievements we measured, for example, this is very objective, your population that has access to open space. And that's a national metric, and we found we're pretty good in the region on open space. Recycling, we have 193 communities that offer curbside recycling programs. And then the next category you see by colors, energy efficiency. So that tells me when, like, I work with the state and they say, well, the municipalities don't want to do energy efficiency. As a matter of fact, that's our third and fourth most common achievement overall. So some of these, this isn't perfect. This is based on what existing programs there are. For example, we found it very difficult to get good measures of who has curbside recycling programs. We couldn't get a complete list. So that number may be wrong. But when it comes to something like local food, 103 communities in the top 10, 103 communities in our study area. By the way, our study area is Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus communities, and then some. We looked downstate and elsewhere in the state because there were municipalities that we didn't look statewide. But that's still, there's a lot of local food happening at farmers markets already. So this was a really good measure of what's going on, and we found some things, again, that we couldn't track metrics on. And so, I need to go live on them. Get a link on this one. So what I did is this, like I said, the data can be looked at a lot of different ways. So now I have a picture of the region, and this is an interactive map on our website that will tell you what communities already have adequate land, or this is all aggregated, so you'll see a lot of the green there. Let me just go to DuPage, because I have a big picture of the region. But here's what you guys look like. You can probably take a minute and look at yourself here. If you go on the website and I got online sooner, you could have just hovered over your community. Warrenville and Winfield, you said you were here. You can just hover over that and it'll tell you how many achievements are related to which category. Not the specifics that you see in your hand, but if you wanted to take a peek at that, what the database looks like, so that one sheet that was handed out, and I did 4 communities just as to demonstrate what that looks like. This is the most fun tool that I've had in talking to my recalcitrant mayors. So my favorite conversation was I met a mayor at an event and we're just chit-chatting, and as the time environment director, tell me what you're doing on sustainability in your community. He says, we really haven't done anything on that yet. So I went back to my office, my little database, I pulled this up and I sent it to him. Jaw-dropping. He did not know you're already green. And what was Hanover Park again? That was it. The mayor, that wasn't him, but I said to Mayor Craig, I'm like, look at all the things that you're already doing. I call it the zero death pool. So you don't want to jump into the green pool while you're already in it. So that's what this is about. And I worked with a group that was doing, it was a group of educators that said, hey, why don't you turn this into a certificate, present it to a community? So if you have me out to your village, and you want me to talk to the city council, you'll adopt the Greenest Region Compact, I'll put this on pretty paper, I'll make sure it's formatted correctly, and it'll give you a good start on the green that you are. If you are interested in learning more about your community's history, again, this is for the purposes of study. It was not to track what you're doing. It was not to identify who's the greenest community. It was to tell me where we're at, and you'll see a little bit more about this. So play with that on the website. Tell me if you want more information on what you've done. But I was also able to, and this is also really, we should be really proud in DuPage County, by simply tallying those numbers of achievements, we ranked them. And this is, can you see yourselves on here? Can you see the names of your communities? So it's top 26 because we had 95 achievements, and you can see where there's some ties here in terms of the number of achievements. So DuPage County communities that are in my top 26, Aurora, Naperville, Schaumburg, Elmhurst, Bolingbrook, Carroll Stream, Lombard, wait for it, Mount Prospect, raise your hand, Villa Park. Did you think you were that green? I mean, you beat Barrington, right? So this is again, very, very enlightening. And some of the communities that were not necessarily leaders in Chicago, Oak Park, Evanston, and Aurora, and Naperville, these aren't real surprises. I think it is a surprise when you see Bolingbrook, Carroll Stream, some of the Villa Park, Lombard really achieving, and a lot of those, remember my metrics include grants. So some of the communities, if you never saw a grant, you might not have made it. By the way, the double bars means that you adopted the original Greenest Region Compact, and then I think the blue says there was a sustainability plan there. So there was a definite correlation between having a sustainability plan and making the top 26. And I will say, I didn't share that list with everyone. If you're in the top 26, you should celebrate. Those who are in the bottom, we didn't really talk about it. Because here's the next neat thing here. So again, who's doing sustainability? Is it everybody? Is it nobody? So I looked at, this is elite, high achievers by the number of achievements in those categories. This is Aurora, Evanston, Oak Park, thank you for being here. These are communities that are probably not going to get involved, not their thing, with the really low achievements. Between these three categories, guess what the percentage is? Communities that are really engaged. Or we call it moderately engaged. Anybody want to guess? 71% in the medium to low. And then when you put it all together, 80% of the communities are someone we can address. I had said, we'll learn from these guys, it's only 1% of the communities, and this isn't on their radar right now, that's okay. But this tells me, we have so much potential that municipalities, again, with this zero depth pool, what a great opportunity we have. So this is more regional stuff that I looked at. But just so you know, what's in the Greenest Region Compact next. So that was the first step. What are you already doing? Next step was say what's already planned and what are the common priorities. And who's done comparison with a municipality? Anybody worked on an ordinance in their community? Or a sustainability plan? If you try to do this as a municipality, what we typically do is say, who's got a plan I can look at? That's the way we operate. Even the village managers will say, find out what 5 or 6 other communities are doing around you. I looked at all of them. That's what I did, all the work for you. I looked at all of them. And again, it was this vision of let's stack those sustainability plans and see what we have. That's what we did. So I read all of the published plans that had specific goals in them. Some of them were more like reports. We found 40. And we found we missed some. It wasn't perfect. We did our very best to study. This was, again, a stealthy study. So we looked to find out where they were published. We analyzed them. And then we took off the individual sustainability goals and we threw them into buckets. So if you think about taking the grapes off the stem and then we sorted them that way. We came up with, I looked at also national and regional plans because there's some real leaders in that, and I'll go over some of the plans, but found 1,149 sustainability goals, and that is the foundation of the Greenest Region Compact 2 framework. And so even if you just look at the colors here, this is really interesting. So here are the different sustainability plans based on the number of goals they had and the types. So just looking at the colors, even if you can't see that, look at the green, look at how important land is throughout. Look at the purple category. I said watch that one grow over time. These are where the goals are. And look at in Normal, Illinois, I think they had college students work there. Schaumburg. These are, even the early ones, these are chronological going back to 2004. These were some that were done by the state of Illinois. They cared about land and people. So climate change doesn't happen. That's the orange category until you get to 2005. And you can just see the diversity of sustainability plans. Lombard, raise your hand one more time. Lombard, you have a very succinct, very short, very well done plan. It shows some, just because it's condensed doesn't mean that it's not fantastic. And Woodstock, just because they have a lot of goals, doesn't mean it's a great plan. But this was, again, let's look at them side by side or on top of one another and see what we can learn from them. And you can see, again, the ones that are arrowed are the DuPage ones. And then just, so you can see the same thing was done on the national level. And so some of these plans, you may not be as familiar with them, but STAR Community Rating System, like that. Very, very high level. I wouldn't call it elite. There's only 50 communities that have this in the country. And so that's really, aim for the stars, what I say. Or a very early one was the U.S. Conference of Mayors Climate Protection Agreement. Where are the priorities? What does everybody care about? So we'll spend a lot of time on it. I was asking more. So in the end, what we did is we looked at that, all those sustainability goals. We created different categories, so you might see some changes there. And looked at all the goals in the land area, looked at all the goals in economic development, all the sustainable communities one. And what we did is we squished it. Where we found a goal in Lombard's plan and Batavia's plan and Oak Park's plan that was related to building energy efficiency, we kind of looked at it and said, well, we found 15 ways of saying we want to do retrofits for energy efficiency. So we synthesized it. We squished it down into major goals of the Greenest Region Compact. And so that, questions on it thus far? I know it's kind of dizzy in here. So that was the process to get to the Greenest Region Compact. And what we came up with then was in these 10 categories, this is a very high-level pledge. This replaces our Greenest Region Compact, the original one, which was a pledge. And it was for the attention of city councils and mayors. It didn't have to get too deep into it, but we want everybody on board. And so the 2 pages that you see towards the back of the plan, sorry, I didn't number them. I need a good graphic designer who can help me with this. So this is the Greenest Region Compact. It's just a 2-page document, and what we asked then, we circulated this to all 275 mayors and say, support us on these goals. Goals only. You're not going to be measured on them yet. You're not going to be held accountable if you don't achieve them, and you don't have to work on them, but just say you're on board with fostering a culture of health, safety, and wellness, and that you're interested in advancing renewable energy. So at a very high level, we got a fairly good uptake on this one. I haven't had a lot of people say we can't buy into this one. I can't see people complain much, but I'm at 42 adopters so far. I wish it were more, but it's good. And then I'll talk about how the framework is. And I was going to put up a list of the DuPage community. There we go. So we only have Hanover Park, Aurora, Carroll Street in DuPage that have adopted it so far. So there's lots more room to adopt. And if you think about it, what it can do, so in Lombard you have a sustainability plan. It won't replace that because yours is baked into the plan. Everybody who has an existing sustainability plan, it's in here. So it should mesh with what you're already doing. It's not a new set of goals. Oak Park's, yours is in here. So it inclusive of everybody and then some. And it sort of represents the best minds because when you did Planet Green in Oak Park, you had hundreds of people involved in that planning process. Elgin had a really big community planning process. Lombard was just very carefully studied. So that says, let's put all our heads together, and that's what this represents, the Greenest Region Compact represents. So again, if you want to come on board, we can be happy to help you work that through your community. So then we did all this data, and I squished it into 2 pages and said, are you with me on this one? What I wanted to do with the data then was turn it into, I want to eventually tie them together into a metrics and reporting tool, but what I was asked to do was just to get broad participation is disconnect them. So the Greenest Region Compact 2 framework is the tool where all that studying went. So all the specific details, all those 15 goals about energy efficiency that got squished into 4 or 5 are in here. And I'll walk through it a little bit, but this is meant to be a tool for you. Again, the idea of looking at other sustainability plans, this is 39 sustainability plans synthesized and squished into one. There are also links, as I said in the beginning, to existing programs. So you want to find out how to be a good steward of trees in your community, it says Become Tree City USA. So you want to retrofit buildings for energy efficiency, here's the link to the public sector energy efficiency grants that I manage, actually. So, as I said, everybody's baked into it. It aligns perfectly to the Greenest Region Compact 2 goals, and it is something that you can step through using your own, setting your own objectives for it. So look at the grand menu of objectives here and see where it fits for you in your community. And it is set up on Excel, so if you're good with Excel, or somebody is, you can use it as a tool. So you can actually play with it electronically and sort it and filter it so you can get at what you want to do. So it's online, it's here in paper, and it's set up both as a PDF and as an Excel. And you can just, I'll put up a picture of it, but if you just want to open a page, browse the sections of the Greenest Region Compact 2 framework, and you'll see there's areas we can say, oh, we've already done that, or not on our, it's not important to us, it's not going to happen, or yes, we want to do this short term. And then you can select the ones that are already something you want to talk about, or already planning, get rid of the ones that aren't relevant, and then work further to tailor it to your community. It's meant to be a framework, so you can make it more elaborate or streamlined as you want, and you don't have to use our exact language. It's just meant to be a tool. So, how then that works, just to look through it. So I said, here are the Greenest Region Compact 2 goals. In the category of economic development, the goal categories, I picked economic development because it's a fairly small category. And so these all align. They're tagged for, ED1, ED2, so you can keep track of them. And all of these objectives relate to the goal. They're coded a little bit with some symbols, so if it's a objective, it's listed here. If it's a strategy, it'll have a little caret, and then if it's an advanced strategy, so we didn't necessarily find all these in the plans, but sometimes experts would say, hey, have you ever thought about doing something called passive house? You might as well put it in there. There's not a lot of communities calling for it, but community solar would have been considered one that was a more advanced objective. So all these are listed there, and then here are the columns where you can manipulate the spreadsheet if you want to. You've already done it, super. You're already a Tree City USA, and you're already a Chicago Wilderness member. And here's one that's in there is you already have a Citizens Commission. That's actually a check mark in there. One of the lines you can say, well, yep, we got that one. And then here you can say not planned or not relevant, like for example, some of the groundwater objectives. You're using Lake Michigan water that's not relevant. And then there's a link to that particular program I just mentioned. And then the stages of planning that you're in, plan for 6 months, plan for the next 12 months, and then a non-time committal one. So I hope you can see that you then can say, yeah, we've done that one, and here are the ones that we want to do in this period of time, 6 months or 12 months, and then not planned. So by the time you sort and filter, kind of pick out the ones that you want to use, and I've been told that it's intimidating. Sustainability people will be more patient with it. Mayors freak out when I show them this. They're not like, yes, wait, you should pick, everyone told me you should pick 10. Just pick 10 and work on it. I'm not going to pick 10. You pick 10. Pick 4, pick 30, whatever you want. But it's there as a tool for you to decide what works for you. Personalize it then. You got rid of the ones that you're not interested in pursuing or aren't relevant. And then here is your economic development section. And you can do that for all 10. I do have Hanover Park is actually one of my model communities working through it. They're passing it around to various departments saying, let's look at this. What works for us. It's really nice to see, so I'm looking for additional pilot communities to figure that out. And then, so the final piece of this would be a supportive program. So pulling all this together and getting municipalities to adopt the Greenest Region Compact, then what do we do with it? Kind of back to my all the fish swimming in the same direction. The idea would be back to our Clean Air Counts program. We actually said, well, if you've done 3 of these things and you've reduced emissions by this much, we'll give you a plaque. You might remember that. We used to have a little award ceremony. Well, you're a silver level community. That's actually on some of these sheets here at Clean Air Count Silver. Glenella. So that kind of an award program would be welcomed by municipalities so they can track where they're at and see how they're doing with that. So that is something that I would like to be able to do is with everybody on board, and those who adopt the Greenest Region Compact 2, that they would be invited to work on pilot projects with us, and I'll talk about one with an example in a minute. And we do manage grants, so the idea is you're already committed to any one of those objectives. You're committed to the Greenest Region Compact, and we're offering energy efficiency grants. Well, then you should be the ones because you've already planned it. You've already said that's part of your goals. And then to Andrew's point about metrics and tracking progress, that is complicated, and I want to do it. We don't have that yet. So if you think about it, again, water metering. If we all installed meters, very fundamental management strategy, what could we conserve in terms of water resources? as a region. So metrics and a tiered recognition program, those are all in the future. But there is an example of sort of this cohort of pilot communities. So I took the energy objectives and I did it for myself, because this is my plan and it's your plan. And I picked out of all of those goals and objectives, I picked some of the ones that I'm personally working on at the Mayor's Caucus. And energy audits for municipal facilities, again, this relates to the goal is use energy for buildings efficiently, advance renewable energy, and enact policies that support clean energy. So those are the three primary goals that, again, I'm working on regionally, working through you guys at the community level. Just to focus on the ones that you see circled here, these are different programs that I've been involved in. Here's my own energy efficiency program that provides resources to municipalities for building upgrades for energy efficiency. But SoulSmart, because it's very new and it's current, it's contemporary, I'm putting my application in for SoulSmart next Friday. So there is an interest here in supporting, advancing renewable energy by supporting the adoption of renewable energy technologies in the community. The other side of that is put it on your own facilities. But let's see how we can make it happen, how we can create solar markets and solar opportunities in communities. And there, we have some work to do on adopting codes and permitting practices that support renewable energy. So that was already identified in the Greenest Region Compact. Adapt building and zoning codes as well. I'm not sure where I have two separate ones, but codes and permitting practices and then building and zoning. So fortunately, as SoulSmart, there is a program that provides those resources. It's a national program. I'm linking to these programs. I'm not recreating anything, but municipalities can get certified as they've done these steps to become solar friendly, and then you get a national recognition for it. Well, I'm inviting Greenest Region Compact communities to try this SoulSmart technology. I'm applying for a grant to get a technical advisor to help them. I get the grant, help whatever communities come into the pool. And those are all Greenest Region Compact 2 adopters. So that's the model of how this future program will work, and then eventually we'll get to metrics and reporting as well. So, almost done. Yammering. Yep, I'm done yammering. Any comments or questions? I know we went through a lot.
Can you tell me about what SoulSmart is exactly?
SoulSmart, yeah. So that is so to enact that goal. That's why I said I liked it. So SoulSmart is a program that offers this recognition, national program. It's fairly new. There's only I think 22 communities that are so far SoulSmart certified. But in order to what they call reduce soft costs for solar to grow, or solar industry to grow, the solar developer has to be able to come into your town, get a building permit, and install it on your rooftop. And if that process is not supportive of solar, because I had a workshop on this 2 weeks ago, and one of the planning staff said, well, solar's new. It's not really new, but you know, it's new to you, you know. But we had the Illinois Solar Energy Association come out and say, well, here's why we need help with the codes, because we go to this town to install solar panels, and they say that it has to match the roof color. Solar panels don't work if they're not black. Oops. So those kinds of codes, and that's the kind of thing that we can all work on together. And that's what SoulSmart provides this great methodology and pathway, very elaborate for becoming solar friendly. It is a little complicated, so I'm doing some smoothing over of that process and helping communities apply for this. So you're still welcome to come on board. We are looking for a formal commitment. You can apply for SoulSmart anytime. It's just that at this point, we kind of bring communities and the Mayor's Caucus together. I'm applying for the grant to get a host of advisor. So that's what that is. And hopefully at the end of the year we'll have, I think I've got 12 communities in my cohort that are looking for SoulSmart designation. And there's other future opportunities related to green fleets. There's a lot of money. You've heard of the VW scandal. There will be a lot of money coming for alternate fuel vehicles, and that is one that showed up as a very high priority. It's in the municipal operations section of the Greenest Region Compact, and there'll be a lot of money coming for conversion and infrastructure for getting municipal fleets off traditional petroleum. Any other questions?
If not, can we just do like a informal interview right now? Would you mind? Would I just like ask you a few questions myself? Because You are just a brilliant mind, obviously. Let's take this as an opportunity to just thank Edith for her presentation tonight. One of those like TED Talks, like after whatever discussion. You know how you have a really good TED Talk? They're like, no, don't go. We're gonna ask you questions afterwards. So thank you so much again for presenting. I'm just geeking out because so everyone knows like I have a sustainability background in school. So to me, this is just like my bread and butter. You guys probably saw me kind of just like rocking back and forth in my seats during that whole thing because it's just so exciting. So you've created this amazing tool. You've gone through and done all the legwork, like you said, on behalf of all these communities, which I just like can't even stress enough how important that is for us to be able to have a tool that we can plug into. A lot of our communities are struggling to convince local leaders that there even are issues that face our communities. Obviously, we have 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere right now. The Pentagon has identified that the #1 threat to human civilization we face is climate change. So we have a problem. All of the world's scientists are telling us there is a red light flashing on our dashboard and no one wants to pay attention to that. So how do you suggest that our coalition take this tool? I mean, it's really difficult to convince people that we should be investing in projects at all, let alone, if we were to set out on do our own investigation or research, it would be incredibly difficult to do. Could we hire a team of people to compile all of these amazing, instruments across the Chicagoland region? And you've done that. So how can we really approach our local leaders who are already averse to anything climate or anything green? There's a lot of stigma around standing up for the health of future generations. Do you have any suggestions on that?
I do, and just today in the SoulSmart recruiting that I've done, I talked to one community. They said, "Well, our board really hasn't taken a stand on solar." And unfortunately, I was on the phone. You can't see my face going, "I didn't know there was a stand on solar." Solar. It really is the future, but if you're not there yet, that's okay. And that's why I think the vast menu of options that we have, there are some things in there that are actually had another Mayor Craig story. So I tried to find what all sustainability is that you could relate to. And so there was, I was looking at lots of things in the Greenest Region Compact that said we want to make the communities inclusive, welcoming, and safe. And I looked at a couple of safety ones, and then I found it. I like this idea of certification. So if you want to be considered it's actually a playful community, there's a certification you could become. I forget what it's called. It's in here somewhere if anybody finds it before me. You can become like a fun community. There was one on safety. And so that's the kind of thing, and I told Mayor Craig that, and he said, "That's sustainability?" Yes, that's sustainability. And if you're already doing it, that's why the green fleets are popular too. Some of the things that work well with municipalities is a very outward. You talked about policy reform. There's policy reform, very important in terms of like the solar codes. That's a really important one. Nobody's going to see it, but if you want to be on the cutting edge of solar development, you're going to have to do it. If you want to look greener and be outwardly green, something like a new truck that burns compressed natural gas or is an electric vehicle, that's a good one to start with. So I think there's places in here that say that suits our community. It's a remember the definition of sustainability, is for people, planet, profit. So it has to make economic sense too. That's why on something like advancing solar, well, if you can make it competitive with traditional brown energy, well then it makes sense. You don't have to say you're doing it for the green reasons. So that's one of the reasons municipalities can lower the cost of solar, and therefore you compete on the equal side. I mean on the profit side too. So I think that's it, is finding something that don't come in over the top green and just say this is good for our community because it makes us safer. It's good for our community because it's cost effective. It's good for our community because it is good for the environment and it does all of these things. So I think that's really what makes sense. The other thing is the momentum, hopefully, with other communities signing in on it. When you looked at the elite communities at the very, very top, you could see Evanston Grove Park. Well, they've done it. Well, we're not Evanston Grove Park. But look at Alston. Look at Franklin Park. look at Villa Park. These are communities that they're green.
There's a lot of things that Oak Park still hasn't done, so I mean,
Yes,
we're all.
precisely. In Chicago, so I talked about curbside recycling. Chicago just got curbside recycling 3 years ago. You know, so not everybody's at the same place. It's not, that's not right or wrong. There are some things that, I think every community, and that's really what we learned, is every community is doing a little something to try to build on it.
So we as a coalition, we have 17 environmental coalition or commissions and committees in DuPage County, and we would love to eventually have all 38 of our municipalities to have an environmental commission. Could you speak a little bit to
Sure.
the Massachusetts
Yeah.
case study that you did?
One other thought, just on the citizen commissions and just, if I could back up for a second. The other thing that you can do to start to move this forward is look across here, and because you are green communities, check off the stuff you've already done and then start the conversation there. Look at all these things. So that's one way to do it. So the citizen commissions are on here, so I know all of you in the room, even if you haven't done anything else, you can check off, we've got a citizen commission, you've got at least 1 point. The citizen commission, so to speak to that, actually, when I was in Massachusetts, I worked at the state level, and one of the most powerful environmental groups, the most powerful environmental group in the state, was called the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions. And the Conservation Commission is a little bit different. It's more like our planning commissions here. So they're statutory. Every city had to have one. But when you put them all together, it was really, you did not make an environmental decision in that state without talking to the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions. So I kind of kept that in my head as what would happen if we got everybody together. Then when I came back to Illinois, I worked at the Morton Arboretum. I went from tree commission to citizen commission, environment commission. I've been to a lot of your towns talking about this. Happened to be during the teardown era with trees, and so there's a lot of people concerned with tree preservation policy. And so I went from citizen commission to citizen commission, and said, well, why am I in the middle here? I used to go to Country Club Hills, and it's like, you should talk to Buffalo Grove, or you should talk to Morton Grove, or you should talk to Batavia. They've tried that, and I'd always envisioned, what if somebody pulled together all the citizen commissions? And so that's what I was so excited to see that you had done with EC3, is I think the strength of the citizen commissions, and even, this is the other part of it, just to tease a future talk maybe, I'd always looked at it as very powerful from citizen commissions. I would say I looked at it from the mayor's perspective once I got to the mayor's caucus, and the mayor's value the citizen commission very highly, very, very highly. So when you put kind of top down and bottom up together, you get action. And you can either have a very active commission and an active mayor, you can have it the other way around, you can have a city council that cares, doesn't listen to you, or however it works, it's a democracy. And so somewhere you're going to connect and make this happen.
Do you know if this Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions, do you know if they ever, so once again, we've got a lot of local leaders who are leading our municipalities, and they're running as volunteers.
Right.
So these are people that have full-time jobs outside of running their local municipalities. So a lot of their expertise, a lot of the way that they move forward is gathering information from the people around them so that they can make the most important decisions. So do you know if the MACC has any kind of case study, or maybe you're aware even around Chicagoland, where citizen commissions, like environmental commissions, have brought leaders into the conversation, and brought leaders to meetings where they can learn about environmental issues and how it actually affects local economies and the health of our families and things like that.
Not through commissions, that's why it's so exciting. To me, what I found out in the study that I did in my observation of looking at commissions and really getting to know them very well is that I find them to be locally very effective, regionally untapped, is the best way to put it. So there hasn't been that networking across the region. And it's not just environment commissions, there's arts commissions, there's human resources commissions, there's special event commissions. We found a fish commission, I just like saying it, so I'm kidding. You know. And so all those, not other fish commissions, I think they're alone. I'm not going to have a lot of other folks to hang out with, but but the networking is something new and potentially very, very powerful. I think there's a lot about future opportunities.
We have agendas that are kind of distributed around, and our next bullet point on there, which we can kind of just flow into, is creating subcommittees. So one of the things that we talked about at our last EC3 meeting was working together to focus on individual issues. And hearing your talk tonight, I'm almost wondering if we should really kind of abandon that idea of having diverse subcommittees that meet outside of EC3, and instead focus as a group on one initiative that you have outlined in here as an important initiative, as a low-hanging fruit for our communities. Do you think that that's advisable, or do you think that it's good to kind of have like a diverse portfolio of projects we're working on?
You know, whatever community, that's what I resisted the, EPA said to me, it's great, but it's overwhelming, pick 10. I don't know what's right for your community. I do know that if you pick solar, and your community leaders say, well, solar's new, it's not really tested here, we're gonna wait to see how that all works out. By the way, solar was introduced in the 50s, so I'm afraid that if you pick one issue, you might alienate some communities that maybe aren't as progressive on that. So if you wanted to align with some of the categories of the Greenest Region Compact, it would be very flattering if you did that, and found some issues that worked with you well there. I will say the Greenest Region Compact was very inclusive in terms of all the ideas on the table. But there were issues that surprised me for their priorities, and so I didn't include the rank of how common they were. But some of the surprises, and I'll just pick two, were things like food scrap composting. I was actually Fox Valley Sustainability Networking Fox Valley Sustainability Network is working on food scrap composting, and it's an important priority issue for them. So I counted up 1,149 sustainability goals. Guess how many on food scrap composting?
Wow.
So it doesn't mean that it's not in there and it's not going to be important to some communities, but for me, to say across the region, is that one you should lead with? It says that it's probably, it was either too new at the time the plans were listed, or there's something else going on. Municipal fleets, I hadn't really thought about. I found that in 13 communities that specifically said they want to switch to alternate fuel vehicles. So I do have that listing if you wanted. That's how I kind of look at all my opportunities, like the solar one. Because it was high enough up, and for me it was a convergence of resources, a lot of money for solar, a lot of money for green fleets, and it was a priority. The other thing with food scrap composting, there's not a lot of money, to make it happen, or it's not easy. So that's how I prioritize. But I think instead, how you all work would be, get issues on the table that work for your community, and that you think there might be some progress to be made.
And what about when there is an initiative, a new initiative, like the food scrap composting was in its first year in Glen Ellen
Right.
this year? But so many people didn't know about it.
Right.
And so, do you think it might be helpful in our role as part of EC3 to help the villages better publicize these things that are important? Because I had that special bin out on my curb, and one of my neighbors was like, "What's that one for?" I thought, we all get the same letters, but everybody reads it. So, do you think that we should also help make some of these initiatives a success so they don't have regrets? That like, oh, this really wasn't important.
I think it's a great role for citizen commissions is to really partner, think about municipalities, and the strengths that they have in terms of implementing policies and administering, pursuing grants, all kinds of things, but for community connections, that's another thing that showed up all across the Greenest Region Compact in all categories, with the exception of like municipal operations, but land, energy, waste, water. There was a desire in all these plans that we read to connect, to engage residents and to connect residents. And that's actually, there's a real gaping need for that sort of citizen engagement. And I think that's an excellent role for citizen commission. Very complementary to city policy.
Another thing that we've identified as a coalition that we're really excited about is creating template policies that can be applied across the county, policies that are well vetted, that have lots of case studies to kind of input into them. Is that something that we could work with Metropolitan here?
Yeah. And things like that, it's really good to dig around and see what's out there for templates. And so like solar, for example, it's not like we can circulate one solar ready code yet. There are, we're finding more resources for it, but that program will help do code reviews. So when it comes to template ones, it's a really good idea just to do some very serious digging and see what's out there. And if it isn't created, embedded, like you said. So yeah, I'd be happy to help with that.
Andrew, I just have a question. I noticed Glen Ellen wasn't on the list of villages signing on. And being on the environmental committee, you probably have more insight into this.
Sure.
But we already do a lot of those programs on there. Why didn't they sign up?
So, DuPage County even has its own dissimilar and similar programs, called DuPage. And it took us something like Adrian, would you say like 5 months, 8 months?
I would say 8 months.
Just to sign on to our own county's designed program that doesn't even really require any kind of follow through on these initiatives. There's like a lot of goals that are made, which are like expertly researched and like incredibly informative. There's an entire document that municipalities in DuPage can utilize to implement some of these projects. But there's really like, there's not, you know, someone holding a hammer over your head, like you have to follow through and this is how much money you have to put into it.
Right.
And it took us that many months just to get local leaders to sign on. So I share your frustration and confusion. We, at a public meeting, and this is on a public, this is all in our minutes, like we had a local leader talk about the Sierra Club trying to take over the local government. So, I mean, we've got people that are very much not in tune with... Yeah. So, it's just one of those things where it's like, if we're serious about changing our communities and we're serious about implementing these life-saving projects, we might have to start pushing a little harder.
In defense of Glenn Ellen not signing on, I was hoping to be at 100 communities by now, but we launched 11 months ago. And the outreach that we did has been mostly targeted towards mayors. I have done some talks on it, but that's why I'm really excited to see if there couldn't be a little push-up from the Citizen Commission. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity, but you're not super late. Don't worry about that. This is just, there were a few emails that I sent out.
So many times I've seen things go through the Environmental Commission and they okay and go through, and it goes through the trustees and the board, and it's just like, you know.
Yeah.
You can invite me out if there's a village board meeting where you want to talk.
Straighten the numbers. Yeah, absolutely. Do we know what time we're at? Oh, okay. Well, sweet. Does anyone have any other further questions for our speaker dinner?
I know in Glen Ellen, Citizens Commission includes people, I'm assuming from the village and the park district. Renee, the park district is very involved. What's typically the relationship? I know with the mayor's caucus, you work primarily with municipalities.
Correct.
Is it more common for park districts to be somewhat involved with that, or more distinctly separate? Do they more often work together? How many Chicagoland park districts even have an environmental swing to them, as opposed to just ball fields and swimming lessons?
That's a good question. The park districts I have found, and I work with a lot of local governments, mostly through the energy efficiency program, and I like park districts a lot for their environmental stance. In fact, they had something that I used, and I don't know if I remember if I baked it into the Greenest Region Compact study, but I analyzed a model environmental policy. But the problem is the Illinois Parks and Recreation Association, there's a lot of park districts. They're not staffed to work on environmental issues, so they did a really nice volunteer effort. They developed a model environmental policy, kind of sort of like the Greenest Region Compact, and asked park district boards to adopt it. They couldn't track it because it's done all by volunteers, but it was impressive. I thought it was a really good effort. They have an environment committee, and I want to say there were probably 10 or 12, we think, municipalities that adopted their environmental model environmental policy. The across the board generalization is that cities and park districts don't work together on the Citizen Commission side. Where you see them, the Citizen Commissions usually advise municipalities exclusively because you're commissioned by the village board to work on the issue. The park districts are usually involved in what they call green teams, and that's where you get, some communities will have, and it's another factor we sort of track in the Greenest Region Compact, where you put the school district, the park district, some business leaders, the municipality, and the environmental group together, and you work on environmental issues. So that's more cross-agency and generally called green teams.
Anyone else have any last questions? Oh my gosh, well I just want to say, on a weeknight, you all showed up for your community. You're going to go back, you're going to represent the Environmental Commission and Committee Coalition in your communities. We're working together. We can do it in DuPage County. You got your cards on the way out. We printed out those cards from our last meeting. You all said you wanted cards. We got some. Yeah, Adrian.
Okay. March 3rd through 12th this year, the One Earth Film Festival is coming to the entire Chicagoland area. It's been divided into 8 different clusters, so DuPage cluster is one of the areas. both Glen Ellen, the Glen Ellen Environmental Commission, as well as the College of DuPage is going to be hosting 2 of the films. Elmhurst is going to be sponsoring a couple of the others. They're all over the city and the suburbs and all these different counties. Incredible international lineup of films, all related to environmental issues. Beautiful, creative, very, very relevant subject matters. I would urge everybody to take one of these pamphlets and please put it on your calendar to go to something. They're in the Chicago area all over, so you could just spend every night.
You got more of them.
Yeah, get more. Thank you.
Question. So, EC3 members, we are currently meeting quarterly, and I know that everyone in DuPage County is incredibly busy. Would people be open or interested in having more regular meetings so that even if we can't attend as many, maybe more people in our community could attend? Is that something?
Maybe that was.
Oh yeah, you're
I
interested?
agree, but-
Yeah, woohoo! Rockin'. Is that something that people would be open to that idea? Like maybe meeting like every other month, every month, something like that. Cool. I'll organize it as a volunteer if you'll show up. So there we go. How about that? Every other month? Woohoo! Thanks so much for coming out. Thanks for being here.
Can I make one more announcement, just if anybody wants to talk about this, I don't want to keep you, because I know you said you were driving at 8:15. There is a grant program that I just wanted to offer that. It's a DOE or EPA funded grant, so get it, well, there's the EPA. But what it is, does anybody have any solar projects or solar initiatives that they're thinking about their community? You do? So what this funds, this project will provide, it's a competition more than a grant program. It would fund the development of solar projects and programs. So if you actually have a site you want to develop, you could get that. The thing that was interesting, just thinking about EC3, is if there was or Sustained DuPage, they will also pay for a team leader. So if you thought there was a DuPage initiative where somebody wanted some help, say, what community are you in? Elmhurst. So if you,
I'm not an official rep from a commission. I'm a volunteer, citizen.
okay. If Elmhurst wanted to pull together and say, boy, if we could get a developer and a financer and the school or whatever you have in mind to do that, you could also have a team leader, and that might be one way for Sustained DuPage to get some funding to work with it, and just put in a little, just to help the communities if you want to move forward and so on. So not my program, but I do know a little bit about it and happy to help you try to think through. It does have a deadline. I want to say something like March 17th. So, yeah, March 17th.
What, did you need to approve the minutes from last week?
No, that's not. I figured every time we have like a kind of like keynote speaker, it's kind of, I think this is a really great format. I enjoyed it of just like having a speaker, maybe having like a little more informal conversation at the end. Yeah, I drew it. Didn't really stick to it.
It's okay.
We're an organic group. Sweetheart, looks like we get to get more organic. Awesome. Pick up cards on your way out.